Do Chelsea transfers actually matter anymore? This is a question I've been pondering and thinking about for some time, stretching back to the summer, maybe even a bit before then, but especially over the last two windows. And a lot of analysis has been made of Chelsea's transfer business. I've read a lot of interesting pieces that I'll link below in the description box that I think you should go and read from different points of view. Transfers are so much bigger than they were, even 5-10 years ago. I saw a clip of our 2014 summer transfer window, that iconic transfer window when we signed Fabregas, when we signed Diego, and Drogba came back to the club, and obviously that preceded an amazing season where we won the Premier League title again under Jose Mourinho. That kind of feels like the last truly successful Chelsea transfer window, like one that you can unequivocally say was a win for the club, and we objectively got so much stronger because of those signings. Now, that means that with some nuance, it's not a sole Clear Lake issue if we just talk about kind of a very simple question in terms of failing and succeeding in transfer windows, because for every bad transfer window we've had under Clear Lake, you can pick out the 2017 summer transfer window under the Abramovich era in the latter years when we were really bad at some transfers. So it's not as simple as that, but I feel like the reason I pose this question now is because we have evidence, we have a track record, and even some of the briefing that has been given since transfer deadline day on Monday, to me just kind of, they're saying it out loud to you very blatantly. Guys, this is what we're doing. This is the way we operate. So if people still start with the premise that everything's fine and it's all about just making this great, ambitious, brilliant football team, I think I've got some bad news for you, and I think that that's why so many people are feeling so despondent about transfers. Not just transfers, because that's not the only thing that matters amazingly in football, but just in terms of the general vibe of the club. Let's look at the business, the big business that Chelsea did. Not great big business, but like the headline business that Chelsea did throughout the January transfer window. So in terms of outs, Ben Chilwell went to Palace, Chukwuemeka went to Dortmund, Disasi went to Villa, Renato Vega went to Juventus, and Joao Felix went to Milan. All of those moves I've just said were all loans. No permanent departures there. The one permanent departure took about a month to get done. That is Cesare Castellet finally going to Torino. In terms of ins, we had two. A recall for Trevor Chalobah, notably into the first team squad. We also called back David Dacho Fofana, but he has a significant injury, so I think the likelihood of seeing him again this year is very slim. And then Matisse Amagou from St Etienne, the young midfielder, who we believe is effectively just hanging around Cobham for 6 months. Maybe he can go to get some coffee with Reece James. Maybe he can spend some time with Wesley Fofana whilst he's on the injury table. I don't know what Amagou's going to be doing between now and the summer, but it sounds like not a lot of football. The simple question, and again, where we talk about where transfers matter, have Chelsea got stronger after this window? The only way I think you make that argument is by saying we haven't added more clutter to the squad. We've actually lessened the clutter. So maybe you could argue from that sense we've not done anything really stupid in this window compared to others. Joao Felix, Axel Disasi, two players who I don't think were vital players for the first team squad. I'm not a big fan of Joao Felix. I don't think he's a great player. I don't think we're going to lose much without having him. And Axel Disasi has obviously been a really poor defender for Chelsea. But we have lost Ben Chilwell, or at least for a short period of time. We also loaned out Renato Vega. So our left-back cover is now very, very slim. There's basically no adequate left-back cover, like obvious left-back cover, which is bizarre, right? And the briefing is that they're going to trust Reece James, who you're relying on him to stay fit, and he's not a left-back anyway. He could probably play there, but, and Malo Gusto. So two natural right-backs that you're asking to cover for left back. So it's not a great place. Again, football objectives, football logic. Why are we now for the rest of the season basically just having one serious left back in our squad? So there's that. In terms of Trevor Chalobah coming back, I'm a big Trev fan. I think that has made our defensive situation a little bit better, but undeniably there is still question marks over that area because you do have Wesley Fofana injured. We don't know when he's coming back. Badia Shil has been injured for some period of time, and the form of Levi Colwell has been pretty poor for some time now. So there are question marks over there. But if you look at the key spine of the team. We've already talked about centre-back. Goalkeeper, has that position got stronger? No, it just hasn't. It stayed the same, and because of the failings of Robert Sanchez, it's a really bad area. We'll see how Jorgensen does. Midfield, all right, Caicedo and Enzo, especially Caicedo, has had a good season, but still, the depth problem in that area is severe. We've decided not to recall either Andre Santos or Leslie Ugochukwu, so they've taken a major risk there. In striker, goals are completely dried up for Nicholas Jackson. There is no serious depth in that area as well. And out wide as well, I mean, the goals from that area have been problematic this year as well. So all round, I don't think you can make the argument that Chelsea are stronger out of this window. But this is the argument I made in the summer, that we walked out of the summer transfer window, which is always the more important of the two because it's the longer one. It's the one where usually you're doing the bulk of your business. I believed we walked out of the summer window with a weaker squad than we walked in. So just off those two windows, Chelsea's squad has been made weaker, which then leads you to a point of asking, well, how can that be? Either we are in such financial dire straits basically that we have to desperately get rid of players, or there's something else going on, and actually the objective to make a better football team is not the priority here. Liam Twomey did a long kind of assessment, right, and there was a lot of information in there, and we've had Liam on the show. I think he's a brilliant Chelsea reporter, and I definitely suggest go and read this piece. I feel like the most telling piece and the most telling part of his piece was specifically about the strategy and about the criticism that has come Chelsea's way from outsiders. So let's read it, and then I think this basically sums up the whole reason behind my question. Chelsea's successes in the first 8 months of Maresca have been largely powered on the pitch by a core of the signings they made in 2023. Palmer, Caicedo, Jackson, Enzo Fernandez and Noni Madueke. Any immediate benefits of their incoming business from 2024 have been more marginal and, to the vocal frustration of some supporters, left some of the team's biggest needs unaddressed while creating one or two more potentially challenging sales. Then, Twomey goes on to say, Chelsea believe their focus on bringing down base salaries and recruiting youth is creating an environment where even signings who do not work out at Stamford Bridge can realistically attract buyers elsewhere in the Premier League, Europe or Saudi Arabia. That paragraph there kind of sums up the priority. It doesn't really matter if the signings from the most recent window are not doing that well. Selling players and lowering base salaries is more important. That is seen as the big objective. Let's move on here. Ben Jacobs reporting that Georgia Petrovic is still likely to leave Chelsea in the summer despite his strong form. That's because highly rated Mike Penders, who stands over 6 foot, will arrive from Genk, and there remains faith in Robert Sanchez and Philip Jorgensen. Nazar Cancelo reported after the window and after Joao Felix moved to AC Milan on loan. It now looks like the deal that saw Joao Felix join Chelsea was more about accounting than football. So Conor Gallagher could join Atletico Madrid for 34 million, helping to improve the club's PSR position. So that's from Liam Twomey, Ben Jacobs and Nazar Cancelo. Not exactly uncredited or random sources around Chelsea Football Club. These are known names. These are trusted reporters. In all three of those statements, I think it kind of sums up the answer. Chelsea transfers matter to an extent, but in terms of what every fan kind of feels with transfers, which really should be at the end of the day when I debate with Chelsea fans, when I debate with friends and family, it's about player A versus player B. Does this player make us better? Does it make us weaker? What area needs to be focused on most? It was interesting. I was in a debate and some discussion with some Chelsea fans very recently, and we were sort of asking the question, like, is this player the most important in the first team squad? Is this player someone we should be, very much focusing on for the future? Is this area something we should be looking at concretely in the summer? And I come to the conclusion that, are those conversations actually happening at an internal high level at the club? And my answer is I just don't think they are. If they are, they're not coming into play, because how do you get into a situation where two players, Renato Vega and Joao Felix, are signed in the summer and only 5 months later they're being loaned out? In the case of Joao Felix, an over 40 million signing already being loaned out. And as Joe Tweeds, I think, brilliantly put it on X whilst this transfer was going on, heads need to roll for that. There needs to be accountability. And what we've learned in recent weeks is there will be no accountability for the sporting directors. Matt Law reporting that even if Chelsea fail this season, they fail to get Champions League football, it will not be the sporting directors who have overseen the building of this squad for 4 windows now, at least 4 windows now. It will likely be Enzo Maresca, who they handed a, 6+1, 5+1 contract in the summer.
Say if Chelsea finish 8th, Maresca will undoubtedly be under pressure then, because they'd finished 2 places worse off than Pochettino. I'm not saying Maresca would get sacked, but he would be under pressure. I don't think the pressure on the sporting directors would be quite the same. I don't think their positions would be in jeopardy. It's funny, actually, because do you remember last season, at the end of the season, when we were all talking about Pochettino's performance review? I remember writing then that the sporting directors would not have their own performance review.
The lack of accountability and the tone-deaf nature of their response to any criticism continues, with Simon Johnson reporting that Chelsea were looking for a striker and winger in January but got neither. Those plans have not been shelved. Chelsea have done a lot of groundwork to get deals done in the summer instead, which was in their plans all along. The thing you've got to understand is, whatever their plan was, it kind of doesn't really matter, because it will always be briefed that it was the plan. It was always the plan to have Robert Sanchez as your first choice goalkeeper and be in a pretty disastrous place in January where you're not even replacing him, but the coach is clearly left no choice but to look at the second option. It was clearly the plan all along for Chelsea to not have adequate cover in central midfield and also up top. It was clearly the plan all along to recall Trevor Chalobah in an embarrassing fashion, not for the player, for the club, after ostracising him and banishing him from first-team facilities. It was the plan all along to spend over 40 million on Joao Felix and then loan him to AC Milan halfway through the season. It will always be the plan, because I don't think the plan is based on principles and based on the objectives that we care about. If you sign players that make your team objectively worse, most people believe that you should hold some accountability for that as sporting directors, because it's your job to make the squad stronger. But what if the starting premise of Clearlake, Chelsea, of Wyn Stewart as a sporting director duo is not about making Chelsea an objectively better football team? What is it? I'm not entirely sure. People talk about financials, but I look at so much of the finances around Chelsea, and even that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because how are you going to make money on players that are consistently failing? How are you going to make money if the team isn't actually performing on the pitch? That is something that I just find quite baffling. I think it flies in the face. So what is it? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. But I don't think currently we can seriously sit here and say, the transfers are making us better, the strategy is making us better, that B, there's any serious accountability, and C, do these transfers matter if the starting premise is not the same as us? Like, we can look towards the summer and say we need this and we need that, but we will be sat here at the end of the summer 2025 window having a similar conversation, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. So that is it for today's show. Thank you so much for joining me and for listening to me and contributing if you can in the comments. If you do like this kind of content, please do let me know in the comments below. Like, share, get involved in the community, and we'll see you again very soon. Have a great day.